Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. So today I've got a 2023 Fender Player Stratocaster on the bench, and it's an HSH model, so definitely not the norm. And also it happens to be an Amazon return item that I picked up on a pretty good deal. Now it came in a Fender box, came with all the materials that a normal guitar would come with, including all the wrenches, tremolo arm, hang tags, and everything that you would expect to see. It's got the plastic on the pickguard. And for all intents and purposes, it seems like a brand new guitar, except it was returned for a reason, and I suspect I might know why, and we're going to take a look at that today. So back here on the back, you can tell that this plastic is still on the neck plate, and it's also on the pickguard. This is the first thing I noticed when I opened the box, and it's just a small ding. It's a little bit of an impression. It's missing a tiny amount of paint, and it's right there in the contour. I initially thought, well, maybe that's the reason it was returned, but then I saw a few more things. I'll have to get you a close-up picture of the headstock here, but the headstock has an odd marking on it. It looks like it's just wood grain, and I don't know if that's something that would turn somebody off, but it might be part of the reason it was returned. Also, I can tell without even playing the thing that the setup isn't very good. The first thing that jumped out at me is that there are 4 to 5 winds of string on every post, which I'm not a fan of, and also the neck pocket seems like it's just slightly loose. I can move the neck ever so slightly without even touching the screws. There's also cracks on each side of the neck in the body. They're not massive, but they're there. But the thing that actually took me a second to even realize was that this pickguard is bowed up in the center, and I'll have to show you a picture of it. It actually raises up off the tremolo. It's almost above the humbuckers. It's just bowed up all through this middle. So there must be something going on in there. So we're going to take this thing apart and find out. Now I've decided that I may want to take this thing back myself, so I'm going to remove the neck in a way that doesn't disturb the strings, and that's by using a capo at the first fret and detuning everything. Now with the strings loose, as soon as I flip this thing over, I could tell the neck is a little bit looser than I would have expected. But let's go ahead and take it off. Well, there's no evidence of the cracks inside the neck pocket, so I think the body is structurally sound. I guess let's just go ahead and take off this pickguard and find out what's going on underneath it. Well, to be honest, I don't see it. All I really see is some warping of the pickguard. I think maybe there was some heat damage or something else that could have gone on. But while we're in here, let's go ahead and see what the components look like, and I'll have to make a call whether I want to return this thing myself or not. Okay, just some casual observations about the body and some other things. The body is really standard Fender Player. 1 3/4 thickness like they all are. It's got HSH routing, shielding on the inside, full block tremolo, Fender stamp steel saddles, 2-post tremolo of course, normal Fender strap buttons, normal jack and jack plate. Nothing outstanding there, although I do love this color. This I think it's a buttercream color, and it's really outstanding looking. Also, what you'd expect to see on a Fender Player is a 3-layer pickguard, so it has that. Full shielding on the pickguard, so it covers the entire cavity. In terms of the neck, we've got a 22 fret neck, standard small Strat headstock, 2-post Fender tuners, plastic, synthetic bone probably, nut, pretty standard frets, medium wire, standard 9.5-inch radius Pau-Ferro board, and you can't see it on the screen here, but it's got 22 frets with a little overhang at the end. Now on to the more interesting stuff, which is this HSH model. So we've got a couple of Fender humbuckers. These are pretty standard humbuckers for Fender. They tend to wire their humbuckers with these 4 posts on the back and these clamps that hold the wire down. In the case of these 2 humbuckers, I don't think they're really all that different. They really look like pretty much the same humbucker that's been flipped around. You'll notice even the wires are approaching from opposite sides. They do have slightly different values, and we'll get into that in a second. The center pickup is an Alnico 5 pickup. You can see that from the magnets on the back. There's not like a ceramic magnet or anything. The pots are exactly what you would expect to see. They're CTS pots. They're all 250K, which is not what I would have expected in a HSH model because of the humbuckers, but I'm sure they work fine. And the capacitor is a 0.022 microfarad capacitor. Then the real special thing in here is this super switch. So it's a 2-layer switch, and that allows it to do a couple of things. In the outside 2 switch positions, you get a humbucker with both coils. In the middle position, you get the middle pickup only. And then on each side of that, in the 2 and 4 positions of the switch, you get the middle pickup plus one of the coils of a humbucker. So it kind of has this coil tap or coil split feature going on, so that it sounds kind of like 2 singles when you're in those 2 and 4 positions. All right, let's take some quick readings. So remember, this neck pickup is a humbucker, and it comes in at 7.53K ohms. The middle pickup is pretty hot at 7.96K ohms. And then the bridge pickup is again a humbucker. It comes in at 8.1K ohms. The 2 and 4 positions are around 2.6, 2.7 each. And again, that's because we get a single coil from each of the humbuckers, and then we get that middle pickup as well. Well, as I've been pondering what to do with this thing, I don't think I'm going to return it. I think in terms of parts value, I've got enough value here to justify the price that I paid. Although I can tell you, if I received this guitar when it was new, I definitely would have returned it. So let's tear this thing down a little further, and I'm going to save every piece off of this guitar. I try to save every piece of these that I possibly can, even the strings and all the screws. Never know when a part's going to be useful. So inside the cavity here, you can see one of the features of the newer player bodies that I really like is that they route these after the finish is actually put on. So all of this is bare wood inside here. So Fender used to use Switchcraft jacks in their Made in Mexico series guitars. It looks like they're no longer doing that. I've seen these sort of Switchcraft copies on some of the Player series guitars. There's nothing inherently wrong with them. They just aren't quite the thickness of a Switchcraft. Really, really close though. Now here's a better view of the body now that I've got it all torn down. It's got shielding just in the very bottom part of the cavity. It doesn't extend all the way up to the edge. Also, you can see the CNC holes for the neck and the body, so that's for positioning on the CNC machine as they created this body. There are some stampings in here. I don't know what 772 means, but it may have something to do with the style of wood or the routing or something. But at any rate, you can see BCR, which is, I'm assuming, buttercream for the finish color. A couple of stickers with some numbers that I don't recognize, but I will say there is something interesting that I've found out as I've been tearing this thing down a little bit more. The body is serialized in a way, as is the neck. I don't know if it's actually a serial or maybe it's just a part number, but at any rate, you get a number here and a number there that both show up on the hang tag for the guitar, so the numbers are replicated on there. So if any of you are wondering how to authenticate an instrument, if it comes with the hang tag, that would make it really easy. Now since the pick guard isn't salvageable, I'm going to go ahead and remove all the components on it as well. I like to desolder when possible, but Fender did a really good job of wrapping some of these around some of the posts, so I just have to cut. As I was tearing this down a little bit more, I noticed that the volume pot is actually a flat back pot, whereas the tone pots are dished pots. So I had a suspicion that it might be a different value, and it turns out it is. It's probably a 500K pot, although it does measure in at 428, so maybe it's a 450K pot. But that was part of the mystery that I was thinking about earlier, was why would they put all 250K pots on an HSH Strat, and it turns out they don't. The two tone pots, however, are definitely 250K. Now before we wrap, it's worth mentioning one other thing that I did notice about the humbuckers. They look identical and they have very similar values, but they're not quite. The main difference between them is that the magnetic polarity is reversed. So on one of them, the screw poles have a north-up orientation, and on the other one, the screw poles have a south-up orientation. Now that would be understandable in an HH model, but this is an HSH model, which means that in one of the positions, either 2 or 4, and I don't know which now that I've taken everything apart, but in one of those two positions, the active coils are going to have the same magnetic orientation. So I'm not sure what that does for the sound or the noise. One other thing that's worth noting about the HSH is that when you have the switch in the 2 and 4 positions, you get the middle, and one of the coils of the humbuckers. And what that's going to mean is you'll have an Alnico 2 pickup and an Alnico 5 pickup working together. Now, I've used Alnico 5.2 pickups in the past, but the combination of those two pickups is probably a similar sound. Now, I've been asked occasionally what I do with some of the parts that I get from my teardowns, and I do sell some of them to raise money for the channel and other things. And of course, I use several of the parts in projects myself, so it's kind of a mixed bag. Okay, well, that's it for the episode today. I hope you enjoyed the teardown. We definitely know why this thing was returned, and it was obviously the pickguard situation. As you're perusing through Amazon returns, it's not always a sure thing what you're going to get. And in this case, it looked like a really good deal, and it turned out to be just an okay deal. At any rate, if you're looking for a deal yourself, I wish you luck on the hunt. Be sure to check out my Amazon links because it does help out my channel, and I also have a new eBay link if you're interested in shopping there. If you want to talk with some like-minded folks, please join the Hacks Guitar Hobby Facebook group. I appreciate all the likes, all the comments, and of course all the subscriptions, and I'll see you guys next time.